Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday night edition of StudentLoanJustice.org. It is Wednesday, um, October 6th, I believe. Yes, it is indeed. Big news today, guys. Good news. There was a 60 Minutes piece last Sunday which pointed out the abysmal thing about public service loan forgiveness, why 99% of the people are being denied. They focused on active duty military people, which is, I think, appropriate. There's a spike in veterans and military, like people who served in the military in general in our group. So I like that. But what's most important is that just today, the Department of Education released a memo saying that they were going to go back and revisit a whole ton of people who applied for their loans to be canceled but were denied. So they're going to go back and they're going to count a bunch of payments that they didn't count before. This is regardless of what kind of a federal loan you have, as long as they're federal. And regardless of what kind of repayment plan you were in. So I will post that fact sheet in the comments below. There are some details in there you want to be aware of. There are a couple of deadlines. And again, this is only for people who worked at nonprofits for 10 years or more, full-time, at a qualifying nonprofit. So there's a lot of devils in the details. And by the way, welcome to Student Loan Justice. We are the oldest and largest group in the country actually fighting only and absolutely for student loan justice. We've been around since 2005. We fought for the return of bankruptcy protections for the first 16 years of our existence, but now we are fighting very hard for the cancellation of all federally owned student loans and the return of bankruptcy to the rest. And we're making great headway, but we're glad that you found us. Spread the word about this group. We've got over 1 million people now on our petition, on our Facebook group, etc. Spread the word about this group. This is the tip of the spear if you have student loans. And by the way, if you have any questions or comments, throw them out, and I will happily respond to them if I can see them, I should say. But, it's very rare that we get any significant news, good news, to report about the student loan program. This is significantly good news, I have to say. So good on 60 Minutes, I suppose. So a couple of thoughts here, guys. Michael Cheney says they're basic bullshit, huh? Yeah. Okay. Well, that was my first point. You stole my thunder there. We don't believe anything the Department of Education says further than we can bowl it, and that's not very far. The Department of Education has demonstrated time and again that they are very capable and able and willing to say things and then not do those things. They do that all the time. They did it. I could go on and on, but I'll believe it when I see it. This is, however, the strongest thing that they have ever said on the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So it's quite significant if you were hoping for public service loan forgiveness. But yeah, talk is cheap, and we'll believe it when it happens. We'll see what happens in the execution. There's a number of ways still that the department can not cancel loans, which is what they love to do. The most significant reason why this thing today is important, at least to me, well, let me back up a minute and say, even if everything they said is true, in fact, even if pie in the sky, everybody who thought they were getting their loans canceled got their loans canceled, which I don't think is going to happen, but even if it did, even if all 550,000 people who applied were denied or otherwise thought they were going to get their loans forgiven, if every single person that this affected got their loans canceled, 550,000 people, there would still be 44,900,000 people in the country, with federal student loans, 80% of whom, so that's like 38 or 9 million people, who were never going to be able to repay their loans. Even before the pandemic, 80% of all borrowers were either not paying at all, and that's like 50%, or another 30% were paying and paying and paying and paying, but their loan balances were going up, not down. So this does nothing for them. But still, I'm saying, this is a significant thing. If you worked at a nonprofit for 10 years that was qualifying and you hope to get public service loan forgiveness, I think there's a very good shot that you'll make it through now. There is additional paperwork to do. There's 2 deadlines, both October 31st, 2022. 2 things that you would want to do if you don't have direct loans. You would want to consolidate your loans into that program. I'm going to come back to that, so hold that thought. There's more paperwork, obviously. You have to apply if you haven't applied. You need to get your employment certified. There's a bunch of stuff. So just read that thing that I'm about to post below at the end of this live stream. Back to what I was saying, though. The most significant thing about this whole thing is the fact that the Department of Education went around the law to do this. They are doing this despite what the law says. And the law says you must be in direct loans. You must be in income-based repayment. So they are throwing that out the window. They're doing that without the approval of Congress. In other words, Congress wasn't needed to pass any laws to change the language in order for them to do this. They also don't need any appropriation from Congress. In other words, no money needs to be spent for the Department of Education to do this. Therefore, this thing today is clear, incontrovertible evidence, unassailable proof that indeed the President and the Secretary of Education can waive, compromise, release, aka cancel loans without needing congressional approval, without needing congressional appropriation. So that petition that we started in March of last year, we were exactly on the right track, and yes, indeed, the president can do that. So that's very good news, and that will augur very well for us in the future. So, there's a couple other things maybe I could say. Again, this is no time to be popping any champagne corks, even if you worked at a nonprofit for 10 years. Because what the Department of Education says versus what it does are often, in fact, almost every time that we have noticed, 2 very different things. And I'm not going to belabor that point, but guys, we trust them as far as we can bowl them, and that's not very far. So yeah, this is good news. Spread the word, I suppose. But more than anything, guys, like I said, even if this is the complete truth and all the loans were canceled tomorrow that they foresee possibly canceling, I think 40,000 was the upper limit on the number of people who might see their loans canceled in the near term. 550,000 was their estimate for how many loans, how many people might be affected. And there was also an erroneous claim, by the way, in the fact sheet today, where they say that to date, 16,000 people have had their loans forgiven through public service loan forgiveness. I don't know if that's just a typo or what they were thinking, but that's just completely wrong. But anyways, so this bodes well. The most important thing is that nobody can stand up and say that the president cannot cancel loans by executive order anymore. Nobody can say that. They still will say that, I'm sure, and who knows what that memo is going to come back saying. But guys, we got this. We're good. We got it. The number one point is what I just said. Like, even if it's wildly successful, there's still going to be, instead of 45.4 million, there's going to be 44.9 million people in the country who are screwed on their student loans. Now, okay, maybe I was going to maybe say this later, but I'll say it now. There's a lot of tricky stuff in this thing, guys. So here is the bigger picture. We have bankruptcy legislation in Congress right now, S 2598. And it's not the perfect bill, but it is a good bill. The bill will finally return bankruptcy protections to federal loans. Right now, there is a 10-year waiting period written into that legislation, which means you can't graduate and go straight to bankruptcy court. You have to wait 10 years. But it's a little more complicated than that because pre 1998, which is essentially what they would like to return the law to, this waiting period, um, recently consolidated loans, recently rehabilitated loans. In other words, loans on which the signature was fresh, regardless of when people left school. Maybe they've been out of school for 20 years, but they just consolidated 2 weeks ago. Um, that may not be good. That may reset that 10-year clock. That 10-year may be lowered to 7 years, by the way. We don't know yet. We hope it is, but we'll see. That may reset the clock on that. So you may lose your bankruptcy protections if you consolidate your loans into the direct loan program. So the specter is out there that, oh, wow, the Department of Education is going to cancel my loans now because I worked in a nonprofit for 10 years. So I'm just going to go ahead and consolidate my loans into the direct program and then do all the paperwork. So you consolidate your loans, you do all the paperwork, and then lo and behold, the Department of Education says, yeah, no, we're canceling public service loans, but we're not canceling yours because X, Y, and Z. You didn't dot this I, you didn't cross this T. In other words, do what they have ever done and screw you in one way or another out of the loan forgiveness. Well, now you're stuck with these. You're stuck with these loans, and lo and behold, bankruptcy is now available for people whose debt is more than 10 years old. But you do not qualify because you consolidated your loans. That is a very real trap that I could see people falling into. And I'm not giving any advice here, guys. There's no good advice to give. I'm only giving you my best assessment here so that you can make your own decisions. If I had worked in a nonprofit, well, actually, I have worked at a nonprofit for the past 16 years. It's just that we don't have a formal structure as a nonprofit or any of that nonsense. But so I'm not, I wouldn't even consider it. But if I had a chance of getting it through public service, I would think very carefully about consolidating my loans into the direct program. I would think about it. I wouldn't rush out and do it tomorrow, though, honestly. I think I might wait a while and see what other shoes may drop on this saga. You know, we've got everyone has until October 31st, 2022, which is a little over a year to get all your paperwork in, and etc. And quite frankly, the loans could be canceled completely by then. I mean, really, because the repayment is supposed to start in February of 2022, and nobody is going to start. Almost nobody's going to happily resume or even unhappily resume. Very few people will resume paying on their student loans in February of 2022 when they start demanding it. The lending system is still catastrophically failed, and I mean catastrophically failed like no other lending system in our history has ever catastrophically failed. And Michael Cheney says the wolves are still out there and still trying to find a way into the henhouse. Yeah, that's true. The student loan swamp has not gone away. There are people scratching their heads all over the place, both outside and inside the Department of Education, thinking how they can get around this. Because that's how they roll. That's how they've always rolled. Hey, Noel Tagliarini says PLSF debacle is on 60 Minutes. Just PLSF. I'm glad that you bring that up, Noel, because I should tell you, the last time 60 Minutes did a story about student loans, they actually featured us, me and like 4 of our members. We were the featured interview on 60 Minutes. That was back in May of 2006. And I might also add, it was Professor Elizabeth Warren from Harvard University. It was her very first big splash in the national spotlight as well. Unlike last night's episode, however, the piece that we were involved in looked at kind of the whole federal lending system and the absence of bankruptcy and so forth. So the piece in 2006, and I'm being honest here, was a far stronger piece. And quite frankly, 60 Minutes needs to take a wider view because, in a way, this whole PSLF thing is a tempest in a teapot. As I said, even if all 550,000 people got their loans canceled tomorrow, there would still be 44.9 million people out there, 80% of whom, like 40 million people, who are totally screwed. This lending system is catastrophically failed, and nothing about that 60 Minutes piece on Sunday changes that fact. So, and by the way, if there's any 60 Minutes producers, etc., listening, I strongly suggest that you go back and look at the May 2006 story and revisit that storyline because this is a far, far bigger issue than just the public service loan forgiveness program. So, and I stand at the ready to be your expert briefer on that fact, because I and many people in this group have lived and breathed this stuff since May 2006. The problem has not gotten better. It's gotten far, far worse. And in fact, this lending system will not survive this pandemic. This lending system is catastrophically failed. And reporters everywhere out there need to start being honest with themselves, intellectually honest. Look at the same data that I am looking at, come to the very same conclusion, which you will, and come to saying publicly, like I am saying and have been saying for the past 2 years now, that this lending system is in catastrophic failure. There is probably no saving it, and there should be no saving it. So, anyways, I don't want to throw too much water. I don't want to sound too heavy here because it is a good day. This is very good news if you've been working in a nonprofit for 10 years or more, or if you're close to that. Maybe one last word of caution. Dudes, anything can happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I don't know. The people in the Department of Education don't know. Congress could kill this public service loan forgiveness program tomorrow. We've been hearing for years about many efforts to cap that loan forgiveness at $57,000. President Trump, as a part of his budget while he was in office, they wanted to kill the entire program, and that could happen. So there's a million ways. If you're sitting there and maybe you have like 1 or 2 years worth of payments under your belt, and you're like, yeah, okay, all right, I can stick it out for 8 more years. Oh, that's a bad idea. I don't think anyone can be counting on this public service loan forgiveness program or any of the loan forgiveness programs, even still. It was only because the 60 Minutes piece that the Department of Education is doing anything, really, by the way. And so, anyways, we'll see. But guys, this only brings into sharp relief why we need to fight way harder. You know, this thing will be used as political cover to do nothing. See, Biden's going to stand up and say, look, see, I'm canceling loans. Well, there you go. All right, I'm done. And that's the last thing we'll hear from the Biden administration on student loans for the rest of this term, or until shortly before the election. And then they'll say, maybe we will. But guys, no. This lending system is catastrophically failed. We need to fight to ensure that it gets a good, clean death, not a long, painful, months or years long unwinding. We want these loans gone. And the first thing that we need to do to make sure that happens is get bankruptcy protections back. We need to get that bill, S-2598, passed. We have to. The key to getting that bill passed is Republicans. It just is. I'm not going to say too much more about that right now, but let me just say, if there's one important thing you can do to make sure that bill passes, it's contact a Republican senator and get them to ideally co-sponsor the bill as it is written right now. That would be super good. Now, of course, we want these loans to be canceled. And so there's two things. There's getting Republican senators to co-sponsor that bill, and there's other stuff involved with that, but I'm going to leave it there for now. Second thing is getting a Republican governor or 5 to join us in calling on the president to cancel all federally owned student loans. This program needs to be ended. The loans should be canceled. The lending system should be, in conservative parlance, taken to the bath and drowned in the tub. We're a better country than what we're seeing from this federal student loan monstrosity. It is unconstitutional. It is wrecking the red states like Georgia, Florida, Alabama, North South Carolina, Tennessee, Indiana, Texas, Maryland, Ohio, South Dakota, and a few other red states. Wrecking them. We can and should, and I think must, get a couple Republican governors, like Mike DeWine of Ohio would be perfect. Ron DeSantis in Florida would be fantastic. Brian Kemp. The governors of all those states that I just mentioned, for whom student loan debt exceeds the entire state budget. That is true of all those states I just mentioned. We need to get those governors to join us in telling POTUS, telling President Biden to cancel the loans. If we could get even 2 or 3 Republican governors to do that, I think it would happen. I truly do. This is becoming a state sovereignty issue. So help with that. The last thing I will say, what we need, and remember guys, we are the pioneers on this. If we don't do anything, probably nothing good is going to happen. We put extreme pressure on the Department of Education on this public service bit. We did multiple video submissions. I think we probably presented the strongest testimony of the hundreds or even thousands of people that gave testimony. I'm pretty sure that our little 3-minute clip was the strongest out of all of those. So who knows if it made a difference? I think it probably did. But guys, we need you to help. We need you sitting there to help. If you're watching this, like Noel and Michael, I know that you guys have been doing a lot already, but 90% of the people on this group have not been. And that is not acceptable. These are your loans. This is your problem. If you go to our website, studentloanjustice.org, you will see daily updates. Go there, please, and look down that update list, and you will see a whole bunch of daily actions that we ask everyone to do. They're usually very quick. It's usually like something with Twitter, or maybe send an email to this congressman, or maybe in the worst case, make a phone call. But really, it's usually like a 15 or 20-second action. Do those actions going back, let's say, 3 weeks or a month. That will help. It will help tremendously. There is great strength in numbers. With over 1 million people in this group and on our petition right now, we comprise the largest group of student loan borrowers in the country. But that only matters when we flex that muscle. That's only going to happen when you get off your ass and help us. So please do that. I shouldn't even have to ask. Get it done. Many hands make heavy work light. I think the Amish people say that, and it's so true. It is. So think about that, guys. We're moving forward. I hope if you've been with this group for any length of time, you will realize, you can tell by the gleam in my eye, that we can finally see the light at the end of this tunnel. This has been a long, long saga for us. I am ready to see these loans gone. Gone. That's what I want. And I can only presume that that's what you want. But you got to work for it. I'm working for it. Ed's working for it. Michael, Noel, I think, are working for it. Everybody out there has got to do a little bit of work for this. And doing those daily actions are where it all starts. So keep us posted. Stay in touch. Things are happening very quickly now, like on a daily basis. We foresee more news to come out in the next couple of weeks. So knock on wood, I hope that happens. Hopefully this thing doesn't preempt everything else, but time will tell. Very last thing I'll say tonight is, if you can make a donation at this time, please do it. studentloanjustice.org/donate.html. We can survive and do what we do on very little funding, guys. Very little. But we cannot do it on nothing. So please just help with that. So with that, I will just leave it there. We will revisit this as is appropriate. I somehow don't think this is the last shoe to drop on this. I think some other things will happen. But come on, guys. We need your help. We've gotten a long ways over the past 2 years, particularly since we started the petition. We need you. We need you. And you need us. And you need everyone, including you, to help us. When that happens, this lending system is done. It's gone. It's toast. It's written off. That's what I want. But you got to want it at least a tenth as bad as I want it. You need to do just a little bit of effort. So just remember that. All right, guys, have a great night. Ed will be with you tomorrow. I will be back on Friday. Check back on this group early and often and frequently. And tell everyone you know about our petition, change.org/cancel student loans, and about this group. We got this. We got this. So good luck. Godspeed. God bless everybody. And thanks to Anna for this very cool button.